+60 racing adventures, the iRacing League for seasoned but racers who enjoy their fun. It's for drivers 60 years of age or over, and it is no barrier to competitive racing, sportsmanship, and always some great battles. And for round 6 here, RaceSpot's second race of coverage on this league this season. We're at Sebring and the club layout, a very unique shortened layout of Sebring Raceway, and one that I think will have the laps coming on by quickly, make traffic rather interesting, and also provide a unique challenge that we don't often see here on iRacing. We've got 2 races coming up ahead of us tonight. Race 1 will be coming up now, then there'll be a short break, qualifying, and then on to race 2. The unique points format here in 60+ Racing Adventures means each driver takes the points of their best result of the 2 races. So a poor result in race 1 is not the end of the weekend, it's not the end of the world. Just put in your best for race 2 and you can definitely stay in the hunt for some good championship points and some good team points. I'm David Haynes, alongside me and producing our camera footage, it's the one, the only Paul Smith. Paul, your thoughts coming into this round? Well, we'll get back to Paul in just 1 second, but the format here, qualifying first 10 minutes and 2 or 3 laps solo session that will grid up all of our drivers for the race coming up. And Paul, back over to you.
Yeah, after fixing those minor technical problems, I not having a working microphone there on stream. Hello everybody. It is great to be back with this series. It's always fantastic racing in this championship, and such respectful driving as well. Brilliant stuff. You mentioned about the championship. It is Stefan Rosgen who leads that championship ahead of Bill Lawrence, with Jean-Michel Noir in 3rd place. That's in the overall standings. There is also a Super 70s Championship as well, and that one is currently headed by Bruce Poole, with Bob Kern in 2nd place and Coppage in 3rd place. So really close battling out there in terms of championship standings, and once again though, it's that familiar name of Stefan Rosgen at the top of the championship standings, but qualifying, well, that's a little bit different.
Yeah, indeed. Get your fingers out, and you might need a second hand to count how many championships Stefan Rosgen has in this series. And it's not just from his pace. Often it's his consistency, his resilience, maybe bouncing back in the second race to pick up the best points. And as you can see, this club layout, the shortened version of Sebring, producing some lap times underneath 1 minute. It looks like one of the pools right at the top of the timing sheet right now. And I wonder how many drivers still have the opportunity to set a lap in this session, Paul.
I think pretty much everybody has been out there and done their laps. Of course, you are limited to the number of laps that you're allowed to do in a 10-minute qualifying session, so we'll be bringing you the grid in about 40 seconds. But yes, Donald Poole, who's in pole position ahead of Bill Lawrence, a championship contender. Bill Lawrence starting on the front row of the grid. That'll be interesting to see, with Stefan Rosgen down in 7th place. That's not somewhere we're used to seeing him in this championship. But to give you an idea how close this series is, 1 second covers 1st to 14th in qualifying. That's pretty close.
Yeah, it certainly is. Part of that effect definitely magnified by the length of the lap on this particular layout. I think that is looking pretty close, right at the top of the times. And I'm seeing 28 drivers for tonight's race, and the time that we've covered this series, it has gone from strength to strength, slowly building up their grid sizes. Speaking of that grid, I can start to hear some of the cars lining up on it, away for our 28 lap race coming up.
So yeah, it is Donald Poole then, who's on pole position with Bill Lawrence second place, as we mentioned earlier. John Morgan third, with Leroy Coppage fourth place. Donald Fitterer is on the third row of the grid with Kenneth Baldwin. Stefan Roschen down in seventh place ahead of Matt Robertson. John Martin and Jean-Michel Nayon, one of the championship contenders, 9th and 10th place with Randy Schumacher, 11th Kenneth Duma, 12th. 13th for David Riley with Bruce Poole, 14th. Bruce Granheim, 15th. Russ Eddy, 16th. Bob Kern, Richard Coulomb, Lewis Canal, and Gianni Raspaldo round out your top 20. Rest of the grid on screen right now. And good sized grid, 28 cars as you mentioned.
Yep, indeed. In seasons gone by, we might have expected around 20 cars, so 28 will be plenty for this layout where we see some of those lap times underneath 1 minute. Traffic might be a thing later in this race. I don't think they'll need to worry about that, at least for the first couple of laps. No pit stop required in this race, these cars carrying enough fuel to get to the end. However, I believe our drivers will have a fast repair available to themselves, effectively a spare car, should they come into some issues. This league definitely focused on making sure everyone has an enjoyable time out on the circuit, gets to put in as many laps as they can, and you can see them forming up behind the Porsche safety car there. We will be having a rolling start, as is typical in 60 plus racing adventures, where you see everyone sort of formed up right now is heading right before what I think will be one of the best overtaking opportunities we see around here. The hardest braking zone into that hairpin after Big Bend. You'll get a pretty strong slipstream in these cars, and that is a big heavy braking zone no matter what type of car you are driving. And here of course it is the as they are scanned on iRacing, Pro Mazda open wheeler cars. Pretty reasonable entry level vehicle for this kind of racing. They're fast, they're relatively nimble, but they're by no means a massive horsepower car.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be an interesting start then. Here we go. Pace car pulling off to the right hand side, and away we go already. Green flag in the air.
Yes, indeed, we get racing pretty clean from everyone at the start. Plenty of side-by-side action, though, no doubt. And our leader in Donald Poole away clear. Biggest gainer we've seen so far. Jared Florison is up 4 positions, but our top 2 spots, Donald Poole, Bill Lawrence, remaining exactly the same. One car slow off the circuit where the club layout joins back onto the full circuit.
Yeah, this is going to be Matt Robertson. Gets rear-ended. Damaged the car, damaged the suspension as well, I suspect, and that's why he'll have pulled off there. So heartbreaking for him on lap number 1. He's pulled back to the pits, but we are going around towards the end of the lap here then, and it's Bill Lawrence coming under pressure from Leroy Coppage in second place. And down in towards turn number 1. This is normally halfway through the lap here for this long sweeping left-hander into the tight right, and able to pull away now is Bill Lawrence.
And this 90-degree left-hander that feeds them through the sort of shortcut, very interesting. You wouldn't typically use that, and so it's a line that outside of this series many might not have practiced. Certainly a little unconventional.
Oh, we've got a cut driver off
for Donald Poole.
Yeah, Donald Poole is dropping down the order here. He's off to the side of the track. We'll try and get a look at this here. He was in the lead of the race. Oh, that's not the best camera angle. I'm apologising profusely for this. Let's give you another look here from a different point of view, but he's having to take it up. So you cut through between the two parts of the track, where it cuts between the full international circuit, dips a wheel into the dirt, and off he goes. And he's another driver heading down onto pit road in this race. So 2 drivers so far that have had to do that. But it's interesting how this will work. And drama for Bill Lawrence now as they cut through onto the second half of the lap.
Yeah, he loses out a spot to Leroy Coppedge, who's now up 3 spots and into the lead. We're going to see some of how that happened. Here is Bill Lawrence. Does he just get a little bit of curb on the inside there? He definitely, at a minimum, pushes out wide. Leroy Coppedge doesn't need another invitation, but then he also has a bit of a mistake going wide and across the dirt. Bill Lawrence gets back into the lead swapping twice in almost as many corners. It was a great little battle that they had there, and it has allowed John Morgan in 3rd place to... Well, he's got a great view back there, doesn't he? He's closed up on them. He's not letting them get away. And the pack has stayed, I think, closer than we'd typically expect, given the layout. Some of the very high-speed drafting tracks, think of a Monza or a Spa, certainly the drivers stay very close together. But around here, the corners come up just a little bit quicker, and we're still seeing rather close racing. 4 laps on the books now, 24 more to go.
Yeah, it's a great little layout, it must be said. And it's tricky because not that many people race on this layout, to be honest, as they head on down into the hairpin. The battle for the lead is ongoing. A little bit over the dirt. Goes Leroy. Up and away, another time, another lap. As Stefan Rosgen putting the pressure on at the moment. Trying to get with Kenneth Baldwin. This is the battle for 4th and 5th place, should I say.
Yeah, Rosgen now has the fastest lap of the race. We saw some 59s in qualifying. He's the first man to put a 59 in during race, and that's allowed him to close right up on Kenneth Baldwin and indeed the rest of the leading pack. So Rosgen up 2 positions from the start, definitely in a position to grab a couple more.
Yeah, putting the pressure on Kenneth Baldwin there. Down through Big Bend in towards the hairpin. And again, as you mentioned at the start of the broadcast here, David, favourite place to make an overtaking manoeuvre is through the hairpin. A little bit of a mistake from Baldwin, losing the back end. Is Rosgen going to be able to take advantage? The answer should be yes, and he is through.
Yep, sweeping section of S's here that then lead towards the next braking zone, but he still holds onto it. And so Lawrence leading. Coppedge has also gone and been able to put in a 59.7, so he's not letting the lead get away, but great battles right behind there. They're nearly going to go 3 wide. They are going to go 3 wide. Somehow it doesn't fully end in tears, but Randy Shoemake in the Texas livery there, 3 wide down the inside, bunch of positions gained. He's gained 5 since the start. He's one of the biggest movers we've got, and the Texan very, very bold indeed to make that maneuver.
He's got off. Oh, that is absolute nightmare for him. We'll get on board with him. So he'd made the move here into the right-hander. It's a tricky, tight part of the track, is that, because it's quite narrow. And then through the left, gonna just run it out wide up over the curb. Oh, and I tell you what, he's done well to keep that car out the wall there.
Yeah, certainly. We've seen a couple of drivers make mistakes there. That curb on the outside, very steep initially, and of course these low-to-the-ground open-wheelers don't like a curb much at all. Big lock-up into the hairpin for someone there, Russ Addy, and I think he's gone nose into the wall. I thought he was going to spear across the track. He's avoided doing that, so he hasn't collected anyone else, but here's the replay on board with Russ Addy picking up, as you can tell, a good slipstream, looks to the inside, misjudges the braking distance, I think, and has to swerve. I thought he went into that wall harder on first look, but seeing it again, I think Russ Addy might continue without too much damage.
I think he managed to avoid it completely. He's done a very good job there. as well as they go around into Big Bend once again underneath the bridge, heading towards the hairpin further down your order then. But Donald Fitterer battling away, and this is with Bruce Poole. So Poole and Fitterer as they head on through around the left-hander into the tight right, the 90-degree right-hander, which is the first corner on this particular layout of the course, and through they go. So change of position then. Bruce Poole up into 9th place here, Fitterer in 10th.
And Randy Shoemake, who we saw making some very gutsy moves, he's closed up right behind them as well. He's this right-hander there, and there's definitely a big dip, a big bump in the middle of that corner, which is only a corner on this layout as you leave sort of the backstretch to make the cut through, and that's where I think we saw some of these mistakes happen. That bump there on the racing line looks very, very severe indeed. Racing continues though. We have a 4-car pack for the lead of this race, and then many other little battles happening up and down the order.
Yeah, you lead. I mean, it's 2 by 2 really up at the front, isn't it? Bill Lawrence, Leroy Coppage out there at the front, and then behind them it is Stefan Rosgen and John Morgan. So Rosgen putting the pressure on here, trying to get past John Morgan through the right-hander, clip the curb. It's quite narrow, that part of the track, as we mentioned. Oh, having to get on the brakes, stamp on them a little bit there. He caught up to John Morgan a little bit quicker than expected, but this is a perfect opportunity now. Use the slipstream, get the slingshot down into the hairpin. Morgan's not going to even look at defending that. That's Rosgen. Oh, the battle for the lead is heated up.
Yeah, we get a fantastic view from the onboard there. Those two cars coming together on the braking zone into the hairpin bend here. We'll have a look what has transpired. We were looking at the battle for 3rd and 4th. Here's the battle 1st and 2nd. And just contact on the way into the corner there. Bill Lawrence comes off very much 2nd best. Leroy Coppage ends up also losing a position. Stefan Rosgen has gained 3 for 1. He's into the lead, but here it is on board with Coppage. He comes back to the regular racing line. I think just gets caught out by Bill Lawrence's braking point. The two come together, and it's hard to tell from the closing speed there quite who made the mistake.
I think Coppage just got caught out and missed his braking point slightly going in there. I think that's what's happened right there, and that's put him 2nd place again as they head into the hairpin here, and through the right-hander. And now John Morgan is going to be putting the pressure on here on these drivers, because Rosgen, as we saw in qualifying, wasn't the fastest in this part of the around this track, should I say. John Morgan, he won't want to give this one up. He'll be giving this a good showing as they head on through towards the cut through here at the right-hander, coming up right here. So these drivers putting the pressure on, but Coppage doesn't seem to be affected too much by damage, able to stay with Rosgen.
Yeah, considering he put his nose to the back of the other car, I think he's definitely gotten away without too much damage. It seems very possible on these cars to damage any of the aerodynamic appendages, your front nose or your wing. He seems to have gotten away with that mostly. He's definitely still on pace and not letting Rosgen get away. And for all we talk about the draft and the slipstreaming in these cars, and the fact that maybe this shorter layout doesn't lend itself to quite as much, you can definitely see the cars picking up a toe in that run from Big Bend and down towards the hairpin. So I think that is another thing, maybe helping Coppage and Morgan stay in contact with Rosgen, who's blown his engine. Bad downshift it must be.
No way. It is. You can hear him. He can't pick up speed. Let's go and have a look then. The best way to look at this will be from this view here. Listen to that engine note. And it's
just on the way into the corner, yeah. And then the smoke comes out the back, and of course looks. The rotary engines are not afraid of consuming a little bit of oil, but that is far too much coming out of the back of the car.
Yeah, he's out. He's back to the pits.
Wow.
Well, luckily for him, second race of the evening, you've got a chance to get another set of points. So it's not over for him for the evening. Of course, anybody new to the series, you do get the championship takes your best result from the 2 races this evening as your championship points. As we've got battling going on here further down, Russ Addy and Richard Coulomb, and also Bruce Granheim is involved in all of this as well with David Riley.
Yep, everyone gets their own battle in 60 plus racing adventures. There's always one happening, maybe, well, there's always one for the lead. There's almost always a battle a little bit further down the order as well. So this is an interesting one to watch. And there's one thing I note about this club layout is this long sweeping corner that leads you to Big Bend. You approach that at higher speed than you do on the normal layout, and that might have been why we saw some drivers push wide there, is they're approaching that corner faster than you typically do for the full layout of Sebring.
Yeah, they're giving it everything, and you mentioned that, absolutely. It's a tricky track, as we'll look forward to Donald Fitterer as well. He's involved in the battle with Randy Shoemaker, who's trying to make that recovery drive. But yeah, definitely it gives it a unique challenge, does this layout, and it's one that these drivers will certainly love. It's a fun little track to do racing on. It's a fun track to do laps on as well, it must be said. So these guys having a lot of fun around this track for sure, as Shoemaker now under pressure from Fitterer.
Yeah, it definitely seems like Shoemaker recovered a little bit from his previous error, but now he's leading a train. We'll see how much progress Fitterer can make. He gets pretty close onto the brakes there, but not enough to make any contact and not enough to make a move, so he holds in there. But Riley, Granheim and Addy, that battle has also latched itself to the back here for a nice little 5-car train. Randy Shoemaker is the captain on this one, and I wonder how much pressure he might come under otherwise. I think David Riley or Russ Addy, who've been big movers so far in this race, could definitely grab up a couple more spots. Russ Addy, for example, started out as 16th, now 10th, and he is right in amongst the battle.
Yeah, and it's almost a 5-car battle this as well, because Bruce Granheim is catching up to them as well. So great stuff from these drivers here. Through the long left-hand corner and down the back straight they go through Big Bend. And this not really the closest battle on track. Leroy Coppage, meanwhile, still leads by half a second. But that race at the front isn't done with yet, as the laps count down here. We're fair flying through this race. There's a little mistake there from David Riley. Gives Russ Addy the perfect opportunity.
Yeah, a little chicane on the exit there makes it sometimes difficult to line up and put the power down. Russ Addy gets a better drive, gets towards the inside for this 90-degree right-hander. Feeds into a little flip back section. I think he's grabbed that position, so that's another one for Russ Addy. Now he sights forward on Donald Fitterer and Randy Shoemaker, and like you say, the laps fly past here. We're past halfway for race 1 of round 6 of this season, and then we award points. We might speak to some drivers, and then we come back for a qualifying and another race again. But at the moment, this battle still has easily 12 laps to sort itself out. Change in position at third place. Big move by Jean-Michel Noyon down the inside of Kenneth Baldwin. Appears to have it stuck.
Yeah, we'll have a look at this one then. Down into the hairpin for Noyon. Looks to the inside. No real defence happening in there. And Noyon makes his way through up into the top 3, so they're about 3.5 seconds behind your leaders. So Noyon really is going to be looking behind him and trying to keep Kenneth Baldwin behind.
Yeah, and it should be mentioned, Noyon, to recap on earlier, third in the championship, just 10 points behind Bill Lawrence, who hasn't had a good race so far. Lawrence down in 14th right now. So the points, very important for the number 21 car in this race. And I guess we might follow that story as well in race 2. Definitely seems like Sebring has the opportunity to shake up the points for second and third. More dramas out there, Paul.
Yeah, so Scott Aguilera was trying to get out the way of drivers, and I think he's got a little bit of either a little contact or he's got damage, I think. I'll give him the benefit of a doubt here. Yeah, he appears to be running slow with damage. He's trying to keep out of everybody's way. So fair credit to him for keeping out the way of the leaders then. And just a tiny little bit of contact sends him round. And he's back on pit road now, out of the race.
Yeah, tiniest of taps sends him around in an open wheel car like this, and just the driver trying to get around, slightly misjudging the gap there. It's unfortunate for both of them, unfortunate for Scotty Gallo. Looking the battle at the lead though, because Coppedge has not been able to get away, but we haven't seen many moves from John Morgan. Like we said, around a short lap like this, bit of traffic in front of them as well. It's a risk, as we've just seen in that replay. It also might give John Morgan an opportunity to get a little bit closer or try and make an overtake if he's not content to sit in second place as we get closer to the end of the race.
Yeah, we'll be 10 laps to go. Yeah, 10 laps to go here. And Lewis Cannell has had an incident. We'll try and get eyes on this then. It's going to be down at the hairpin. What's happened here? There goes another engine. That's another Mazda rotary engine destroyed.
And how we typically see this damage done is grabbing a downshift too early or something like that. The smoke came out of Rostjan's car on a downshift. It's happened there for Lewis Cannell. So I don't know quite if the engines have become a little bit weaker, or maybe some of these drivers around this layout are just trying to grab the downshift too early, putting too many revs through the engine and damaging it, and the magic smoke leaks out.
Yeah, well, it's not working out for them, that's for sure. John Morgan still involved in this battle for the lead. Coppedge and Morgan making their way past some back markers now. Look at this, Morgan onto the tail of Coppedge. This battle for the lead is not over yet, and a little block of the brakes from Coppedge. He's feeling the pressure here in front.
Yeah, it was a great run through Tower Bend, and saw two different lines into the right-hander at the cut-through. Leroy Coppedge staying a little wider of the bump, and John Morgan taking the shortest line. But through all of this traffic, Jean-Michel Noyon is now about half a second, maybe closer to John Morgan. He's in the battle now as well, and his pace has just come alive in this second half of the race. Where on earth has that come from? Where was it in qualifying when he qualified 10th? All of a sudden, the fuel burns off, but here comes John Morgan down the inside. Cannot get the move completed, costs them both time. Jean-Michel Noyon in the picture now as well. Coppedge still holding on to it. John Morgan meet in a sandwich as our top three get very close indeed. Exit of Tower, not great power down from Coppedge. He's lucky it leads into only a very short straight towards the cut through. 7 laps to go now when they cross the start finish line next. And that's when the music kind of stops and you want to make sure you get a chair.
I'll tell you what, John doesn't want to get too caught up in defending for second place, because he'll let Leroy Coppedge pull away if he's not careful. So I think he's wise enough to that, and we saw that with how he didn't defend vehemently on Stefan Rosjan when he was making his way through. So Morgan, he knows what it needs to take to get a good result, and he's quite frankly at the moment in a good position to get a good result.
Noyon got in too hot. Very sensible thoughts you bring there. Noyon got in a bit too hot on the brakes there. Just managed to pick it up, but I thought he might have collected John Morgan. He doesn't, but it just goes to show he's pushing pretty hard, and sometimes when you're following in a train like this, spotting your braking markers is hard. Coppage hits the bump, has a slide, loses 2 spots. Will it be 3? Change for the lead. It is 3 spots he loses, so now John Morgan in the lead with Jean-Michel Noyon right on his gearbox down the longest straight towards the hardest braking zone. Will Morgan defend it? Looks like he's going to. It's side by side for the lead.
Yeah, we just saw a replay then of the battle for where the mistake, as here we go, lead battle. Noyon around the outside of the hairpin. Hats off to you, Jean-Michel. That's fantastic.
Had the advantage of picking his braking marker wherever he felt like, and that is huge moves from him. He was in 5th, now he's in the lead of the race, and plenty of battles still to happen because it's formed up to be a 5-car battle for the lead now. Morgan in 2nd, Baldwin has snuck up into 3rd, the expense of Coppage in 4th, and Kenneth Dummer closing in on the back of this train as well somehow in 5th, and it's that bump on the cut through that really has shook up the lead of this race.
Yeah, it's been catching a lot of people out, has that bump, and it's shown here throughout this race what can happen if you can just catch that bump in the wrong way through Big Bend down to the hairpin. Well, look at this battle for 3rd place because Baldwin coming under pressure from Leroy Coppage, who only a lap ago was in the lead of this race.
Yeah, you can't take anything for granted, nothing's safe. Same too for the lead, where Morgan is going to try and fight it back. He's down the inside for this right-hander, and again, he's just not confident enough to brake deep enough down the inside. Noyon holds onto it around the outside. I think this is good stuff from Morgan. He doesn't want to get in over his head. He doesn't want to get in too deep. He's definitely taking a look where it presents itself.
It certainly is. And, yeah, you can see the effects when we're on board of the bumps. I mean, Sebring is known as a bumpy track. Let's not forget that. But yeah, these bumps are catching a few of these drivers out here today, and now Morgan is going to have to go defensive. He's lost the leader, and here we go down into the hairpin they go, and it's Baldwin looking to the outside. Not going to work this time though.
No, so John Morgan holds onto that, but he's now just a second away from the lead. He's just dropped out of that window, and once again he might have to defend for 2nd. This is all looking good for Jean-Michel Noyon, but behind Morgan, defending from Baldwin, Coppage and Dummer still in the train, and we're now into 4 laps to go. How much longer can he keep up the defense, and how spirited might the attack become?
Oh, he's made a mistake there. That's going to allow Baldwin to the inside. Contact from Coppage. Oh, drama in the corner. They're going to carry on, or are they going to carry on? Well, we can't get a camera shot. Baldwin is parked up. We'll have to look at this again. It was a mistake from Morgan hitting the curb. He ran it out wide. That was a move for Baldwin, and Coppage just comes in a little bit too hot. That puts him out the race, and Baldwin, I think, has got suspension damage.
Yeah, he goes and then parks that car immediately after the corner, and a little mistake there from John Morgan, and the other drivers maybe too optimistic in trying to jump on through. Wow, that really shook up our battle inside the top 5, but it gives a couple extra positions to this battle. Randy Shoemake and some of the others. Russ Addy takes a look for what's now going to be 4th place and some serious points. Shoemake around the outside, not going to give it up. They squeeze very close through this fast left-right switchback and in towards Tower Bend. Addy has the inside. You've seen you don't want to hit the curb on the inside there. You don't want to run out to the dust on the outside. We need to give a name to this right-hand corner with the bump in the middle.
I can think the drivers will have many names for it, but none of them will be broadcastable as they come through Big Bend once again. 3 to go here, and these drivers are pushing all the way to the end here. They can see a really good result here, and it's interesting that you mentioned earlier on about Russ Addy being one of the top people for gaining positions. We'll bring it up on the left-hand side there. Russ had it 11 positions. Jared Florison, it must be worth pointing out, in 12th place.
That's going to be 12 when they cross the line. When that graphic updates in a second, it'll be 12 for Russ Addy. He is a man absolutely on a mission, maybe qualified not where he hoped, but he's raced like a demon.
Yeah, absolutely. Just cutting his way through the field. Down into the right there. Through they go once again. And they'll cut through around the track there. Heading towards the second half of the lap here, when this is usually the first half of the lap around this track. But heading down through Big Bend again. I think this one is pretty much settled at the moment. I think it might be a mistake from Rusadi before anything could happen here, but you never know with these Pro Mazdas here. Through the hairpin again, and we're going to be starting the final lap here.
Yeah, our leader has just seen the white flag to start the final lap, and only a minute around that lap, so we are very close to the end of the race indeed. And there's about a full lap to fight for these guys for 4th and 5th. We'll try and keep an eye on where Jean-Michel Noyon finishes. He is out there with a sensible lead, but we've seen engines pop at very inconvenient times. Randy Shoemake wide at Tower onto the dirt, trying to hold on in a train of 5 cars that Russ Addy has fought his way to the front of and doesn't want to give up on.
Yeah, that's it. He wants to get that position, and that's what we're doing. But we're going to have to switch then to the race leader, because he's coming to see the checkered flag.
Yep, exactly. He is, I believe, by most definitions, he's crossed the line now. Not 100% sure exactly where it is around this circuit because it's not in the traditional place, but he's our winner. John Morgan recovers from his incidents to get second. There's a battle to the line that Russ Addy holds onto in his great little train he was a part of.
Yeah, we've still got battling further down the field as well. Gianni Raspaldo is one of those drivers who is trying his best to get with the Bob Kern and Jared Florison in front, but as they come across the line then, it's not going to be enough for them as they come across. And one driver will be very disappointed being a lap down is Mark Robertson. He finishes down in 18th place after starting right up there near the front of your field. But, well, David, that flew by. I think it's about time we get some results on screen.
Yep, so our winner, and from very, not very deep in the grid, but from the middle of the pack, no doubt, Jean-Michel Noyon grabs a fantastic win and 35 points that goes with it. John Morgan, solid result in second within 2 seconds of the lead. Podium rounded out by Kenneth Dummer, 7 seconds away from the lead. And then fantastic battle pack we saw in the second half of the race. Russ Addy leads home, Randy Shoemake ahead of Donald Fitterer, ahead of Bruce Poole, ahead of Bill Lawrence, David Riley just behind that train, and Bruce Granheim rounds out the top 10.
Yeah,
Richard Coulomb there in 11th, Bob Kern 12th, Jared Florison 13th, and Gianni Raspaldo in 14th. Last car on the lead lap in 15th, France Brink, then Douglas Beasley 16th, PJ Sally 17th, lap down, Mark Robertson lap down, Lewis Cannell a lap down, and your championship leader coming into this round, Stefan Rostian, 20th place. He'll be very much hoping to improve that in the next round. And then retirement's functionally the remainder on your screen.
Yeah, really dramatic for Stefan to blow his engine like that. Very experienced driver and a quick driver in this car, but not the only one to blow the engine this round. So it's interesting to see how that goes. But the beauty of it is, as we mentioned earlier, it's the best result from these 2 races, and so he's got another race to look forward to. But I believe we do have an interview.
Yep, our second place finisher, John Morgan. And John, first of all, congratulations, standing on the podium once again, 30 points for you. But this club layout of Sebring, we don't see much racing here. It's got some noticeable differences to the normal Sebring layout, one being that right-hander at the shortcut looks very, very bumpy.
It is, and funny, earlier practice a lot of.
Paul, have we still got John here?
No, I think we're just having a little bit of a issue hearing John at the moment, which would be a shame. It'd be great to hear his thoughts here. Hopefully we can get him back.
Yeah, had you at the start there, John, and you appear to have trailed off. You still with us?
I think so. Is
there
it
we
better?
go.
Sounding much better to me. That bump at the cut through, as we're calling it, looked very severe and caught a couple drivers out.
Yeah, we appear to have lost John again, unfortunately. But I will say that it was a fantastic effort from him to get second place. I mean, he did start this race in third, so not entirely surprising. But still, to see him get that position, the great effort from him, and he should be very proud of his position there. Hopefully we'll be able to get a word from somebody else here as well, David, because we've got another driver has just appeared, and we'll be able to grab him now.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get a word with Randy Shoemake, who ended up finishing 5th, but drove up through the grid starting in 11th there, Randy. Randy, do you have us? We don't seem to be getting anything from you.
I apologize. How about now?
Yes.
Definitely got you loud and clear now. You were in and amongst a lot of the mid-pack battles in this race, and plus 6 positions to finish in the top 5 must be pretty satisfying.
It is disappointing to make the mistakes that you make when you get a few and then give some back, but that's what I expected the race to be. It's just a tight track. You try and get into a draft and take advantage, but it's mainly single file and wait for the gentleman ahead of you to make a mistake. And don't make any on your own.
Sebring known and almost pride themselves on it being a little bit of a bumpy layout, but this club layout, the little cut-through section it's got seems even more bumpy than elsewhere on the circuit.
Yes, sir. I guess it's, from it not being probably used near as much as the regular track, it is extremely bumpy, like you said. It's rough, and that almost makes it, helps it to go to that single file format.
Well, one race in the books, still one more to go. Is improving from 5th place going to be possible?
I think so. You may be in error. There's a lot of times that guys, settle down and know what to expect now that they've been in the first one. So it'll be difficult, but because it's such a difficult track and touching any berm seems to be crucial and upset the car, anything's possible.
I think my last question for you here before we let you go get ready for race 2. I mean, we saw a couple drivers manage to damage and blow their engines. Any concern with that from you? Is it the bumps? Is it taking a downshift too early? Is that a concern for you, or is it just the setup some of these other drivers are running?
Everyone's running the same setup, so that's not the concern. If they get into the draft and do their normal downshift, quick, and if they're in a draft, the car will try and shift in maybe too quickly, and that'll blow the engine. It's not usually a factor if you're by yourself.
Well, you've found the finish line on the lead lap in race 1, and I wish you the same in race 2, Randy.
David, I want to thank you so much for all the work that y'all do and broadcasting our races. We certainly appreciate it. I want to congratulate Kenneth Drummer and Russ Addy that finished 3rd and 4th. They weren't able to join today, so I took their spot, but they deserve praise. Thank you very much.
Well, there we go. A very magnanimous interview and words there from Randy Shoemake, throwing the spotlight onto some of his competitors and some of the great racing we saw in race 1.
Yeah, absolutely. And, given the challenges of this track and the few mistakes happening, we're getting a little bit of a slightly mixed up results here, which is great for us to see. Some of the people we're not used to maybe seeing further up the field. So it's great to see those people getting that opportunity. And the thing is now, race 2, you've got drivers who really do need to get a good result. I'm thinking people like Matt Robertson, also Bill Lawrence, and Stefan Rosejan. They'll be wanting to get some really good results here in the second race, so they maybe will be a little bit more edgy. Whereas some of the other drivers, they know they've got a solid result in, and they'll try something, but maybe not risk it all. But we'll have to wait and see. It should be a great second race.
Yeah, it certainly should be, and we're going to take a break here on RaceSpotTV. We'll come back with qualifying and race 2 for this round of 60+ racing adventures at Sebring International Raceway. Don't go too far, we're back soon.
They are some of the world's best simulator racers, and their events on iRacing are streamed around the world. But today, they are making their national television debut, going wheel to wheel exclusively for the first time on NASCAR America.
Working on how the tires are starting to fall off. We can see running the top groove, and that's what's fun about iRacing. You see the rubber building up on the racetrack, the groove starts widening out as the tires go away. So
this gives an opportunity. If you can't afford a race car, you can do this. Like, this gives an opportunity to so many people, and you can see the racing's real. And these are the best of the best. 90,000, right? Right. Think about that. And you had only 40 make it to this level. That's absolutely amazing, this kind of racing that you see.
For the race lead in the final corner at Homestead, Novak will squeeze on the outside, and for the first time, Zach Novak is in NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series champion.
Say that's the family coming in too.
I love it.
That's awesome.
2019 eNASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series, its first-time series champion, Zach Novak.
So Joshua Rogers, he is the champion of the 2019 Porsche Esports Super Cup.
iRacing, World of Outlaw, Sprint Car Champion, Alex Bergeron.
A driver's license? So we've got that covered. We've got a driver's license.
Oh my word, he's slow. Oh my word, he's off the track. What is happening here to Max Verstappen? Drama at the end of the Spa 24 hours. But it will be Lando Norris, Team Redline, PRT, taking victory here in the 2019 iRacing 24 Hours of Spa.
Get in there, Lewis.
Thank you all so much for taking part in this race. It means such a lot to see so many teams come out and try and raise money for a fantastic cause. We're already at £7,500 raised, so this is all you. £35,000 raised for an absolutely fantastic cause.
We're just gonna go silent for these couple laps.
Oh, crikey. That's a few dead. Have we? Oh.
Well done, Dave.
Oh.
You deserve it, Dave.
I want to be right on this trajectory right here.
Clear.
Right, a little bit wider. I want to be out here, like almost like this. Right? Right in there. It's just a little mistake on his end. I don't really want to get too picky. I really don't want to get too picky, but that's fine. Oh, no! No!
Whoa. 3 wide, you're on the left.
We're good.
On your right, you're clear on the right.
We're good.
Wow.
What the?
Where was I? Oh my God. What's up, you guys?
Hacia acá va. ¡Oh! 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 ¡No frenes! ¡No frenes!
Corre, corre, corre. Yolo, no puede ser.
¡Que gana! ¡Que gana! ¡No, no, 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 no! ¡No! ¡Sí! ¡Sí!
Chaval.
¡Sí! ¡He ganado! ¡He ganado! ¡He ganado!
La suerte.
1/1000th of a second between them.
They go door to door for the feature race lead here on the last lap of the race. Down the back straightaway, 3 wide again for the race lead. This is unbelievable stuff here tonight.
And he is very deep on the brakes and side by side through the corner. This is for the win.
Ottinger high to the very inside is Garrett Lowe. 4 wide at the stripe.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $400,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Welcome back to RaceSpotTV and our coverage of 60 plus racing adventures. Race 1 has been run and done. Now our drivers are getting ready for Race 2, this being round 6 of the season. And if you're not familiar with how 60 Plus Racing Adventures seasons are structured, we'll take a little look at that now. We covered the first round of this season live on RaceSpot at Laguna Seca. In the intermediary times, they've gone and had some races, round 2, and then round 4 and 5 and 6. That a little bit off, of course, because no race was actually run on Christmas Day. A lot of people might have been a little bit too busy with some other things, so really we're looking at subtracting one number from everyone since then. We're here now at Sebring for another live broadcast. The championship continues after here at Interlagos, Spa, Mosport, Barber and Watkins Glen before RaceSpotTV is going to bring you coverage on March 4th of the championship decider, the season finale, championship decider we hope, at Montreal. So that gives you an idea of the championship, where we're at now at the halfway point. We're also in the halfway point of this round because the drivers now just getting out on track for qualifying for race 2. This is going to set the grid for race 2. No times in yet. All the drivers on their out lap going to start their first flying lap, and this man, Stefan Rostjan, Paul, boy oh boy, does he need a good race 2.
Yeah, he does. He will not be happy with how that race 1 went, and he'll be trying his best. Well, he won't be happy with qualifying from race 1, let's be honest, because it wasn't the best for him. So he'll be giving it absolutely everything. And in fact, let's give you a look then. A 1:05 he's just done, but that causes his out lap. So now it's the all-important hot laps here as they're heading through towards the tricky right-hander that we've been talking about with that evil bump, this one right here.
Yeah, and you can just tell from the body language of the car, Stefan Rostjan gets a little bit of the curb there. He cut that one very fine indeed, but all of the drivers finding the track has a bit of a pit, a bit of a drop away in the middle there, but is looking good for Stefan Rostjan through the first half of his lap, now towards the big braking zone at the hairpin. What's normally turn 7 or something, a little bit different on this layout. It's almost the last corner of the lap before they come towards the start-finish line for this club configuration we're racing on today. You're going to see the first lap time from Stefan Rostjan, and I'm sure he's aiming for something underneath 1 minute. Comes across the line, it's just over, but it is a respectable first lap, and now he's be fully up to speed. He'll be looking for a second lap to improve on that one. All the drivers getting 2 qualifying laps, and that's it.
And look at that, Bill Lawrence to the top of your timing screens then. He has put in an absolute stormer, a 59.9. Same weather conditions for this second race as it was for the first race, so that the drivers have a bit more experience of how the car and the track feels with these weather conditions.
Yeah, indeed. Something that can be a pretty big variable. What the track temperature does especially. Big effect on how the car handles, big effect on how much grip you've got. 30 degrees Celsius track temperature that we've got, pretty well middle of the road. You can't complain about that. It's not super grippy, unrealistically grippy either. What it isn't though is a baking hot track where traction is very difficult and the car very slidey underneath you. Race 1's winner, Jean-Michel Noyon, he's looking to improve, but he was also very good at working his way through the field in race 1, so while I'm sure he'd like to qualify well, we've seen it's not necessarily a prerequisite.
Oh, he'll back out of this lap because he's made a little mistake there. Well, he's going to keep going. He might as well get as much practice as possible. Bill Lawrence to the top of the standings and ahead of Donald Poole. Leroy Coppage up in 3rd place, so Rostjan has ended up in 6th place for the time being, with only a couple of the drivers still yet to put lap times in. Bob Kern, Kenneth Dummer and Gianni Respaldo. Dummer, to be fair to him, had a stonking race coming through the field and finishing in that battle for 4th and 3rd place.
Yeah, I mean, you always want to qualify as well as you possibly can, and it might help you stay away from some of the crashes. Some of the incidents might also buy you a bit of space to think. but we've definitely seen that around this layout of Sebring, it's possible to fight your way up through the field, then catch the next pack, fight your way through that. There was a couple of real success stories that picked up 10 or 11 or sometimes 12 positions out there. So qualifying isn't everything, but it certainly puts you off to a good start.
Russ Addy, a man who didn't have the best qualifying in the first race, but 5th place. That's really good for him as he's coming through Big Bend now towards the end of the lap. And yeah, so Russ trying desperately to get the lap in and get a good finish to the lap here, because he can smell a top 2 rows of the grid starting position. Does he improve? The answer is yes, he does, and that's going to move him up. Or is it? Oh, it's not counted his lap by the looks of things, so he must have made a mistake, got onto the grass or something.
There's certainly a few places it's possible to get an off track here. It's also very well possible that this 10-minute session where only the first 2 flying laps count, you can then stay out, use the remainder as a practice session. Some of our drivers choosing to do that, Stefan Rostjan for example. And of course we're seeing 1 minute lap times. That means a 1 minute out lap, 1 minute flying lap, 1 minute flying lap. You can have your qualifying done in the first 3 minutes of this 10-minute session around a very short club layout like this. So that definitely entices some of the drivers to stay out there, keep lapping and use it as a practice session. That's what we're seeing from Donald Poole, from Russ Addy, from Stefan Rostjan. These guys trying to make sure they're as prepared as they possibly can for race 2. I think that's definitely a good suggestion for Stefan Rostjan.
Yeah, he'll be definitely wanting to have an improvement on that result from race 1, and certainly hoping to get a good run here. But you might as well, you've got the time here to put the laps in, you might as well utilise the time to get those laps in and to push on. But yeah, it's worth pointing out, as we were mentioning at the start of the broadcast, Stefan Rostjan was the leader coming into this race with the championship, 175 points ahead of Bill Lawrence with 147, then Jean-Michel Neuer in third with 137. Good close battle for 4th and 5th between Randy Shoemake and Bruce Poole. Only 8 points separate those two, and then it just gets tighter and tighter as you go down the order. So plenty of championship implications happening, and with it being the halfway point of the season, you want to try and get yourself a really good start to the second half of the season.
Yeah, a bit of a tipping point, isn't it? This way, at the end of this round, the championship will be halfway done. So at the end of this race, 2 more minutes left in the qualifying session. Everyone who's eligible to set a qualifying time has. At this point, it's just warm up and it's just practice for Russ Addy. He's out there putting in a handful more laps. So too Randy Shoemake, who is going to start at a 13th place, so maybe watch him to try and grab a couple more spots as well, waiting on that clock to tick down towards race time.
Yeah, and this is what they'll be wanted to do now, is they'll be wanting to get themselves psyched up, get themselves into a position where they can get into a really good, comfortable rhythm, because this track, it's the full length circuit, the international version of the Sebring International Raceway, it is a very sort of, it's more all about sort of getting into a rhythm with the track. There are a couple of corners that are slow hairpins, but then you've got a lot of sort of medium speed corners. Okay, with this track with the cut through, which you see on screen right now, it is a 90-degree right-hander, but you could still get into the rhythm and the flow of the track. And if you've not maybe quite been in the right frame of mind or the right feel for the track in race 1, taking as much time in the warm-up and then qualifying to get those laps in could prove to be crucial and a difference maker here in this second race to get yourself a really good result.
Yeah, I bet you Stefan Rostjan's been thinking about his downshifts after he blew the engine and blew his race lead. He'll be thinking, you know, when do I grab those downshifts and how many? Of course, a sequential gearbox car like this, it can be pretty easy to grab quite a few downshifts at a time. If you're too aggressive, too quick with that, put too many revs through the motor, and that's almost your race done. It'll definitely cost you quite dearly. Just a few tiny seconds left of the qualifying session before we'll bring you the official grid, and here it is. Starting on pole position is going to be Bill Lawrence. Well done to him with the fastest time. And Donald Poole going to join him on the front row for our rolling start. Those two gentlemen underneath the 60-second barrier. So too is Leroy Coppage on the next row, alongside John Morgan in 4th place. 5th place, Russ Addy, and he's joined by Stefan Rostjan, points leader, but in need of some good points this round as well. Then Joel Martin and Bruce Granheim are 7th and 8th. The man who won race 1 might want to back it up in race 2. Jean-Michel Noyon there in 9th, Kenneth Baldwin in 10th, David Riley qualified in 11th place, and Gianni Rispaldo, Team Italian Turtles, in 12th. Remainder of your grid here, Randy Shoemake, very interesting driver to watch, in 13th, Bob Kern in 14th, Bruce Poole 15th, Kenneth Dummer 16th, Lewis Cannell in 17th, Richard Coulomb in 18th place. Scotty Gallo, we saw his race not go so well in race 1. He's going to start out of 19th. Doug Beasley in 20th. Last drivers then is, with a time, is Gene Moore and Larry Thomas, and then PJ Sally and Jack Turner, no time. We'll wait to see if they start the race, but all of our cars rolling for the very short run towards the start of the race behind that safety car. Bill Lawrence, Donald Poole alongside each other at the front row of the grid for the start of this race.
Here we go then. Safety car pulls over and they're going away already again. Green flag in the air.
Short run towards the first corner, and it was a solid jump from Bill Lawrence. Donald Poole and Leroy Coppage come through, but there's a couple cars making contact in the background there. You see Randy Shoemake, his livery stands out, and tough for him. He spins halfway around, rejoins, keeps going. I don't see any massively wounded cars, but one car stopped there. Who is that? We'll take a second look. Kenneth Baldwin must have picked up enough damage. He's decided to park it.
Yeah, we'll have a look from on board quickly before we head back to live pictures then into turn 1. It was a bit of chaos and carnage, so he was the one who got clipped from the side, and then he's got no steering at all. Decides, you know what, let's park this to the side of the road.
It's actually Noyon on his inside who snuck through, which is interesting to see, but our front two grid starters trying to break away a little bit. Lawrence and Poole, it's a bit of a gap backwards, and it's Russ Addy who's worked his way up from 5th into 3rd position. So a lightning start from him once again, and then close racing behind Coppage, and Rostjan looks like he might try to grab another spot. Rostjan's gained 1 spot off the start, 2 cars lined up right in front of him, and he will probably not be too shy for an overtake.
Yeah, these drivers then right in front, Coppage and Addy really coming under pressure very early on from Stefan Rostjan, taking that wider entry into the corner. There's a car off in the grass. I believe that's Donald Poole. It is. Oh, it's an absolute nightmare for him today. Nothing seems to be working for him.
Yeah, look at the replay from the top 2. He's in 2nd place, and it's this long left-hander that's caught out quite a handful of drivers. From the replay here, just starts to put the power down, has a wiggle at the back, and has to sort of jump out of it. Again, another driver avoiding the barriers there, but cost him a lot of time. There's a little tweak to his front wing that might be from the rather vicious curbs there. Nguyen making more moves. Roastgen making some moves as well. Bill Lawrence having some struggles.
Yeah, well, I'll get on board with him then. So he was in the lead. Russ Addy was in second. He goes for the brakes. Realises his brakes a little bit too late in towards turn number 1. Goes for becomes one of the most expensive lawnmowers you could possibly imagine, and loses a ton of positions down to 6th place. As we've got another incident, Richard Coulomb involved in that as well, and I believe Scotty Geller, it's not been his day, and he is that incident on screen right now.
Yeah, on the run in towards Tower, looking for the inside, and again, contact. Scotty Gallo there, he's having some issues today, and going for the inside line that wasn't quite open was that other driver. Has caused a bit of contact. I think in all of the chaos of the first couple laps at the start of this race, Russ Addy will be counting his lucky stars from 5th to 1st, and another blown engine. Bad to worse for Donald Poole there, Paul.
Yeah, and that's it's not been a good day for these Mazda engines. That's 3 we've counted so far in these 2 races. But back to this battle towards the front of your field. Don't forget, live timing scoring is available on RaceSpot.tv/timing. But yeah, there's John Martin now with a spin. It's all happening in the start of this race here.
Yeah, indeed. We take a look at the replay of that one. Familiar place. Entering this section of corners a little bit faster than you might otherwise, and he loses the back end of the car very, very early, just like Donald Poole did. So, not quite sure what's going on for the drivers in that section of the track, but the car looking just a little bit twitchy.
Certainly is. It's, well, back to your lead battle. Roastgen, Coppage, both within a second. Russ Addy runs a little bit wide over the dirt. That won't help. So Russ Addy, he is pushing hard, trying to stay in that front position and trying to break away the draft.
Very, very tall order that would be. Roastgen ran a little bit wide on the exit there, but still slots into the slipstream of the competing cars. They all form up down towards the heavy braking zone. Bill Lawrence, Bruce Granheim battling in the background there, and Granheim, I think, lets Bill Lawrence back on through, so he's on a charge once again, trying to get back some of those positions he lost when he missed his braking marker. This move wasn't too difficult from what I can tell, but we'll look at the replay to see what might have happened. Just rolling out of the throttle was Bruce Granheim. Lets Bill Lawrence on through.
It does. Russ Addy coming under intense pressure from Coppage now. This is going to get very interesting for your race lead now. There's half a second covering these 3. Oh, Russ Addy! Big mistake there on the bumps. That's going to allow Coppage through here.
That's a corner where we've been looking at the bumps all day, but it's not over. Coppage makes a mistake. He's wide, side by side for the lead once again. Roastgen tucking in behind. Addy, with a bit more momentum, has to go around the outside. Roastgen sneaks on through, gets second place, down the inside for the lead of the race. He can't quite do it just yet. An opportunistic move out of him when we saw mistakes from Addy and Coppage. But Addy holds on to the lead. He gets it back, and wow. A couple of corners there, a few changes for position. Roastgen nearly jumped his way to the lead of the race, but he'll have to be a teeny bit more patient to see when an opportunity presents itself again. He couldn't do it then.
It seems to be that anybody who gets to the front of the field in these races doesn't want to stay there and ends up making mistakes and losing out. It's a funny old business, is this motorsport. As John Morgan, the man who finished in second place in that last race, he's now up into fourth place and up to the back of these 3 battling at the front, with Bill Lawrence there with him as well. So really close battling for your top 5 now.
And Lawrence has found the kind of pace he had earlier. He's found his marks, maybe calmed down a little bit, found his rhythm. So 5 cars for the lead of the race once again. Addy trying to fend off Stefan Roastgen, which, if he knows the history of this championship, he'll know that that is a very, very tough thing to do indeed. But for the moment, it's working for him. But if he can't hold off Roastgen, then there's a train of other drivers who'd also like to jump on through as well. Differing lines in the background there. Coppage trying to take a wide entry into Tower Bend to try and keep the pressure on the leading two. There's a bit of traffic ahead they might also encounter.
Yeah, through the left then in towards Big Bend. You mentioned it, traffic in front of them. That is going to be, I believe, Larry Thomas in front of them. Hopefully he doesn't get too involved. He's able to negotiate that. Oh, well, basically just pulls over to the side there and lets them all through. So, you know, hats off for sensible drive. I don't think he needed to come to a complete stop, but that's what he felt comfortable doing. And, well, there we go. In towards turn one again. And these three, they're pulling away from Bill Lawrence here, these three. That's the crucial thing for these drivers.
Yeah, Lawrence and Morgan didn't do such a strong job getting through the traffic, unlike our top three here, who continue almost unabated. 0.6 of a second to separate the whole top three, and the pressure on Russ Addy right now cannot be understated. Roastgen and Coppage right in behind, trying to find a way past. And I think Roastgen has a decent exit towards Big Bend. Is he quite close enough to make a move into the hairpin? At the moment, it doesn't quite look so. Addy needs to make sure he picks his braking mark up perfectly so he can get a good exit out of here, riding on board with Roastgen. Looked pretty smooth from both of them. And Coppage right in there as well. Anyone's race right now, and Russ Addy is absorbing the pressure very, very well for the moment.
Coppage is looking very tasty here at the moment, trying to make some big money moves here from third place. He's got plenty of time remaining, you know, 19 laps. There's no need to do anything rash at the moment for any of these drivers. They need to just get in that rhythm, get in the rhythm of the track. See those different lines between the three drivers there. Roastgen and Addy getting right into that bump on the apex, whereas Coppage was just a little bit wider. Decides to take the smoother line to get the better power application down. Through Big Bend now, heading towards the hairpin. Look for your brake marker, and well, looking for his brake marker is Roastgen. Oh, it's all checking up a little bit there into the hairpin. Through the left and then the right, and then you've got the Fangio chicane. I don't know why they call this a chicane, it's flat out.
Yeah, I think in some older layouts of Sebring it was maybe a bit closer to a chicane. Now it's a bit of an afterthought, but Roastgen right up behind Addy. Coppage still in there as well. Interesting to see Roastgen took a peek to the inside in the hairpin on this lap. We'll see what about later on. And Lawrence getting himself back into the picture as well. This one heading for a very, very interesting conclusion indeed. There's battles all the way down the field, because there's a battle for 6th, a battle for 8th, a battle for 10th, and a battle for 12th. Everywhere you look, someone is fighting someone, and that's what we love about this league. All skill levels, all levels of experience, some very significantly experienced indeed. There's a battle and some quality racing for everyone happening out there right now, and even better that there's one for the lead.
Yeah, so Randy Shoemaker we just saw making moves on Joel Martin moving forward. We've got Douglas Beasley and Lewis Cannell, they're pretty close together out there on track. You've got, as you mentioned, Bruce Poole and David Riley. They're about 1/2 to 3/4 of a second between them. Jean-Michel Noyon, that's an interesting one with Bruce Granheim, pretty close together. And then, as you mentioned, the battle for the lead is certainly heating up, and Roastgen is the one putting the pressure on right now.
Yeah, there's only a car length in it at points right now. Maybe extends a little bit out towards 2, but this is the critical corner, the drive out of here. I think Roastgen gets it pretty well, but he is just a tiny bit too far back. He'll slot into the slipstream, but they hardly get up to 6th gear down this straight. It's all about a very solid run out of the preceding corner. Everyone stays in a line this time in our top 5. And Noyon has just put that move on Granheim.
Yeah, we'll bring this back for this one. We want to have a look at this because it is a championship contender and it's somebody making moves here. So Jean-Michel Noyon then is going to move up into 6th place. Bruce Grenheim doesn't defend too hard. Decides, no, do you know what? It's better to just let him by and work with him because he might be able to get it. Stefan Rosgen's off.
Yeah, Rosgen, I think, might have even collided with the barrier there. That's just happened. We're looking at it live. He's been removed from the battle for the lead. Here's the replay towards Tower Bend. He's right up behind Russ Addy. Different lines in towards Tower. Rosgen pushes out wide, tries to keep the throttle pinned in the dirt, then spits him out the other way. Costly error. I think he just got greedy on the exit of the corner.
And we're going to stay on the replay, by the way, because Russadi made a mistake going into Big Bend, and this is going to allow Leroy Coppage to make a run on him down into the hairpin using the slipstream as well, and that's going to be a change in your race lead. Russadi and Leroy Coppage switch positions.
It all kicks off in the top 5 at the halfway point of the race. Rosgen drops back, Coppage makes the move on Addy, and Bill Lawrence and John Morgan still in the picture. And for these 4 guys, they are breaking away at the lead of the race. You see your top 8 on screen there. Hasn't been enough to put Rosgen back into the grips of Jean-Michel Noyon. What's happened for Russ Addy?
And he's made it back to the lead. It was a mistake from Leroy Coppage. That's dropped him down 2 positions here. We'll go on board. It's through this corner again. Hits the apex. Back end wants to break away. There goes Russ Addy. Whoa, that was really close there. There goes Bill Lawrence. And Bill, after a nightmare of a first race, is now up in 2nd place, battling for the race lead.
Positions changing very quickly up front here then. So Russ Addy back into the lead, but Bill Lawrence is now all over him as well. Stefan Rosgen trying to catch back up to the battle, is the fastest car out on circuit right now as well. This is one of the best racing we've seen in this championship in a while. It's anyone's game. It's very close. And Douglas Beasley, we're going to have a look because he has been for a little trip off the circuit, losing the rear in that corner. Not the first driver to do so, probably won't be the last. That fast change of direction has been difficult for these cars.
Certainly has, catching a lot of people, even the top drivers, it's been catching out. So a little bit of a learning experience for Douglas, and he'll be trying to move forward. But now, speaking of moving forward, we'll show it up on the side of the screen, the positions gained, because there's been a number of drivers moving forward. Russadi up 4 positions, Noyon 3 positions. Look at that pool, up 7 positions. So really good from Bruce Poole, and also Kenneth Dummer once again up 6 positions as well.
Just off that graph is Jack Turner, who didn't set a qualifying time, started from the very back of the grid and is now up 10 positions into 14th. So I don't know if you can quite give that to someone without a qualifying time, but he's stayed out of trouble there, and from that has picked up a couple of positions because conditions have been treacherous, and a car like this is difficult across the bumps. Rosgen, I think, is back in touch with the top 5. We can call it a top 5 party again if we want. Addy has led the most laps of this race, but it has not been easy or hassle-free for him.
No, it's certainly not. As you mentioned quite rightly, Rosgen catching to the back of them is 2.1 seconds behind your race leader. So pretty close in the front fours. We've got Duma and Bruce Poole battling away as well. That's down in 8th position. So plenty of battles going on in this race. As you've mentioned, great stuff all the way through. There's David Riley not that far behind these two, as here comes Bruce Poole to the inside. Space given by both drivers. That's just going to bring David Riley into this one as well.
So Dummer, Poole and Riley 8th, 9th and 10th. That's good stuff from both of these guys there. Poole didn't want to be the one to dive down the inside and cause a wreck, and Dummer, heads up, knew he was coming, left a bit of room as well. So they continued to fight another day. So too do our leaders, where Stefan Rosgen, last lap, 59.578. Not only the fastest lap of this race so far, significantly faster than any lap we saw in qualifying for race 1 or race 2. He's worked his way back into the picture, and with about 10 laps to go, he's at the back of the train. Anything would be possible. He's got to improve that lap again.
Yeah, he has, as here we go. We've got the battle for 8th ongoing. And this was pretty close between them once again. Poole looking but not making the moves. They were looking in the hairpin as Rosgen makes it through on John Morgan. So position gained for Stefan Rosgen up into 4th place.
Both of them have dropped back a little bit. I want to think that might have been a mistake from Morgan, and Rosgen's come through but dropped a little bit of time to the leading car. So we'll take a look on replay in towards Tower Bend. Rosgen behind Morgan. Morgan maybe runs a little bit wide. Rosgen has a look down the inside, and that is not going to be an easy move. He has to take a very tight line. I think it costs both of them a little bit of time. Nothing that Rosgen can't recover from, but for the lead, no! Addy defending, and there's contact. He gets spun around. Bill Lawrence is down the inside. Not sure if Addy left quite enough room for him there. Here comes Jean-Michel Noyon through into 5th place. Contact in the battle for the lead of the race.
Yeah, we'll look at it from above then, and into turn 1 there. I mean, there was room given. I think it's just one of those little mistakes that happen racing instant, I would say, for that one, in my opinion, just with that quick look at the instant, but not ideal. And Addy's down to 6th place now. He's got damage to his front wing as well. Hardly ideal around here.
Yeah, it really does look like Addy gave him a car's width and a foot, and then Lawrence has slid 1 foot wide of the apex. Just unfortunate from both of them. The little mistake from Lawrence occupying the little bit of space that Addy gave him, the two make contact, and unfortunate for Russ Addy, who'd really stormed his way through the field, puts Bill Lawrence into the lead right now, but the pressure still mounts on whoever leads this race. A real train of cars behind are eager to take the throne.
Well, I mean, that little battle between Rosgen and Morgan allowed them to gap out a little bit for your front two. And, well, they're still battling, but they've got the bit between the teeth. And Bill Lawrence, he's the crucial thing. He was the driver who started on pole position. He set the fastest qualifying time. He's at the front of the field now after recovering from his little mistake early on in this race. He has just got to try and just pull away and break that draft, but Leroy Coppage will not allow that to happen as they're coming up to some lap traffic here.
Yeah, indeed they are. That makes things a little tricky for Bill Lawrence. He's going to try to find a way through that isn't too risky but doesn't give Coppage an opportunity to jump on by, and before tower turn our leaders get let on through the twisty section there. Good driving from whoever that driver was, letting our field through very easily here indeed. And John Morgan, I think, hasn't gotten through quite so easy because he's now dropped back. It's a 3-car battle, Lawrence, Coppage and Rosgen for the lead of the race.
Yep, so 1.2 seconds covering your front 3 here, and they are just spread out just that little bit, so I don't think there's going to be any moves made just for the time being, but we'll certainly keep an eye on them. I also want to keep an eye on that battle for 8th place as well. Duma, Poole and Riley, they're about similar sort of gaps really to your lead 3 as well. Lewis Cannell did lose a position on last lap. Randy Shoemake making his way through, so recovery drive from Shoemake, but definitely some close battles out there on track as Coppage seems to be a little bit quicker through turns 1, 2 and 3. It just seems to be the second half of the lap where Lawrence just seems to pick up that gap again.
We heard after race 1 some of the drivers saying that getting passes done wasn't especially easy, and it's this turn here, the left-hander, where I think good exit out of here is the only way you can really guarantee a pass, then down on the brakes into the hairpin. Rosgen, I think, didn't quite get the run he was after. Coppage makes a look towards defending. They get very close on the brakes. Coppage holds on to second.
Does, but Rosgen's looking very dangerous and ominous here. He wanted to make some moves to get himself as many championship points as possible. A second place at the minimum would do him very well here for his championship, because Bill Lawrence is his chief rival, and if he can finish right behind Bill, then he's losing out as little points as possible here. If he's in third, loses that little bit more of a gap, and Bill gets that little bit closer. But right now, at the moment, they were about 28 points coming into this week between them. Bill's at the front. He's pulled out a little bit of a gap here because of this battle as well.
Yeah, Coppedge inadvertently playing a little bit of rear gunner for Bill Lawrence, and like you point out, that points gap is still within a single race victory. The lead that Roastgen hasn't leapt out far enough that a bad race wouldn't hurt him. So this would definitely bring Bill Lawrence a little bit closer. Roastgen is going to take a look. He's not alongside as they get towards the braking zone, but he has his nose in there and forces his way past Coppedge, who saw that move was happening sooner or later, and the answer was sooner. Roastgen up into second, still might be close enough to Bill Lawrence.
Kenneth Duma, something's happened to him down at the hairpin. Is it going to be just the lock of the rears, a little bump, get on the dirt, loses control, and into the wall, nose first. Spins it around, but that's going to be a trip to pit road, which is exactly what's happening right now for Kenneth. He was in a really good battle there for 7th and 8th, for 8th, 9th and 10th, but that one's now just fallen away from him with that instant.
Yeah, stamped the throttle hard with a little bit too much steering input still wound on, and unfortunately that has sent him around to the wall, and a lot of damage for what's basically the slowest corner on this layout. It's unfortunate for Kenneth Duma, who was giving us some great battles and some fantastic entertainment. So he'll get that repaired and he'll get back out there, but I'm not sure he's grabbing a huge haul of points out of race 2.
No, it's not going to be close. Speaking of close, Randy Shoemaker making a move on Gianni Raspaldo. Damage to the rear wing of Raspaldo, so it's going to be, he's compromised anyway for top speed, and that allows Shoemaker to go through. Makes it up into 11th place. He'll be a little bit disappointed with this one, I feel, after how the start went. As here comes Stefan Roastgen now with Bill Lawrence.
Lawrence defending the inside. Roastgen has a look around the outside, and he'll maybe try and use that to cut back in, get better drive, bit of a twitch, and Lawrence might just survive another corner or so. Coppedge is still in the picture. He's come along with Roastgen to close in on this lead. So if anything happens to Lawrence and Roastgen, Coppedge could sweep in and pick it up. We'll see. But different lines, different ways to approach the turn for Lawrence and Roastgen. Lawrence still holding on to the lead of this race, and it is proving relatively difficult to pass if the other driver doesn't want to let you through around here. So with 2 laps to go next time they cross the line, Lawrence is not going to be inclined to let Roastgen through.
PJ Sally and Richard Coulomb ahead on the road of this battle, as Russ Addy has had an instant at Big Bend. He's got damage on his front wing. What's happened here? Let's find out. Well, he had the damage from earlier anyway. Oh, up over that curb! And that won't help.
Yeah, it sort of does the skateboard grind over the top of that particular curb. No wheels on the ground, and that's what spins him right around. Takes him away from that battle with Jean-Michel Noyon he was trying to be a part of. Gives him a bit of damage as well. So Addy back into 7th place. But it is properly 2 laps to go for our leaders. A bit of traffic almost confuses Bill Lawrence, but he'll hold on to the lead. It won't give Roastgen quite the opportunity he was after. Our top 3 have maybe 90 seconds of racing left before we see if Lawrence closes in the championship gap to Roastgen, or if Roastgen can recover from a horrible race 1 to grab another race win in race 2. Defensive line from Lawrence all the way in towards the corner. He's telling Roastgen, not going to let you through easy this time.
Yep, start the final lap then as they come across the line, and well, time is running out for these drivers. As we say, about a minute for a lap. They've got another bit of lap traffic ahead of them. I think that's Joel Martin ahead, isn't it? Or is it Richard Coulomb? It is Coulomb in front. Hopefully it doesn't become a factor, but here comes Rosgen now.
Yeah, Rosgen is right in the picture as they come to this 90-degree cut-through corner with the dip in the middle. They come through cleanly. This is where it's all going to matter. The drive out of this corner, Rosgen tries to set up the late apex. A little bit of curb there for Lawrence, hurts him. He gets a bad run down the hill, and Rosgen round the outside. He's going to try to grab the lead in the final braking zone of the lap. He has his nose in front, but Lawrence has the inside, might almost squeeze him out. Great positioning from Lawrence, and I think he's going to grab this one towards the line. Coppage is almost going to try to pick up a big slipstream off Rosgen. Bill Lawrence, great defense out of the final corner to win race 2 in 60+ racing adventures, and boy did he have to work for it. I'm seeing Coppage might have grabbed Rosgen at the line.
We'll have to wait for the final results. Meanwhile, Bruce Granheim was in 6th place. Russ Addy behind, going into the hairpin. Has Granheim just maybe caught a wheel on some dirt? Or maybe getting on the power a little bit early maybe helped? It's difficult to see on that one, but yeah, around they go. And that's the end of the race for them. But yeah, cracking racing at the front there. Unfortunately, a couple of incidents happened. A little bit scrappy at the start of the race, but certainly gave us some good, hard-fought racing towards the end there. And well done, Bill Lawrence, for getting the result. We'll wait for the final 2 cars to come across the line, and then we'll be able to give you your final race results here.
Yeah, I'm hoping we might be able to get a second look at Rosgen and Coppage out of the final corner, because I'm just seeing, as the race finishes, that update on my screen. They had a real drag race to the end.
I could give you the last lap between Coppage and Rosgen. So we'll do that very quickly, and then we will, because luckily it's a minute for a lap around here, and when we will give you the final race results. But here we are then. They made their way past Richard Coulomb, the lap traffic. Rosgen just hit that curb, and Coppage right now is not in a position to make any moves. But this is what happens here. So Lawrence gets on the curb. That compromises his run out through Big Ben. Rosgen sees the opportunity, goes to the outside, because Lawrence, no way was he going to let him to the inside of that corner. Down into the hairpin here, and this is where Coppage then gains and catches up that time. All of a sudden, better run out of the hairpin here, and the question is, who comes across the line first? Have to wait and see. Oh, I had to just back out of it, did Coppage. That is what costs him that position then, as we take you to your final race results here.
Yep, so as they cross the line, here is how it was. Bill Lawrence grabs a thoroughly deserved win there, ahead of Stefan Rosgen. Wasn't quite as close as I thought. My timing screen unfortunately leading me astray on Stefan Rosgen and Leroy Coppage. But nonetheless, our top 3 within 0.4 of a second, with 28 laps of green flag running. Very, very close between those guys. And then behind, quite a few other drivers who had some opportunities. John Morgan, Jean-Michel Noyon, couldn't back up his win from race 1. Then Russ Addy recovers to get 6th place. He was up and down the timing sheets like a yo-yo, led a lot of laps. In the end, it's 6th for him. Bruce Granheim in 7th then, David Riley 8th, Bruce Poole in 9th, and the top 10 rounded out by Bob Kern. After that, Randy Shoemake, a bit weaker than race 1, unfortunately for him, getting a bit of contact lap 1. He gets 11th place ahead of Gianni Rispaldo in 12th. Lewis Cannell in 13th, Joel Martin 14th, Richard Coulomb, the first car off the lead lap, in 15th, TJ Sally there in 16th, Douglas Beasley in 17th, Gene Moore in 18th, and the last car 1 lap off the lead was Jack Turner in 19th. Then Kenneth Dummer, we saw issues for him. He had to make 2 pit stops on his way to 20th place and 2 laps down. Kenneth Baldwin also 2 laps down in 21st, and then retirements or did not starts, Larry Thomas, Scotty Gallo and Donald Poole. But another action-packed race there, and we didn't know who the winner was going to be all race long, and we didn't even out of the final corner.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic, and well, it's about time that we had a word with our race winner then.
Yeah, indeed. So Bill Lawrence joins us. Bill, I gotta say, congratulations. That looked like very hard work for the last couple laps.
Yeah, David, it was. I've got a good sweat going here. It was tough to fend off Stefan there. Our last race at Okayama was the same thing. I went from first to third on the last lap.
We saw a few drivers struggling with the left-hander that then leads through Big Bend and down towards the hairpin, and on the final lap you got a little bit too much of that curb and hurt your run. At that point, did you think it was all over, or did you think you could still defend?
Well, I knew he was with about 3 to 2/10 off, so I knew if I dropped the gear, I normally take the turn at the end of the back strap straight there in second. So I dropped it into first, had a little more punch, which gave him room on the outside, but at least I thought it did. So yes, it was a bad exit and it cost me, but turned out okay.
And thinking the grand scheme of the points in this championship at halfway, Stefan Rostgen's almost always been the man to beat the last couple seasons. With this, at this round, you sneak just a little bit closer, 5 points closer in the points to him. Is consistency going to be key to the remainder of the championship?
Yes, definitely. It's one thing to hot lap, it's another to be able to maintain consistent laps. So I think it's really important, but Stefan will be hard to touch. He's just so quick.
And bringing it back to this circuit, the club layout of Sebring International Raceway, short lap, lots of traffic, lots of bumps. What was your biggest challenge of all of those?
I think the biggest challenge is that short little strip between the international circuit that connects the two. The right-hander there. That's a really tough, bouncy, bumpy corner. And if you're not careful on the throttle there, I'm not sure about the coverage, I'll look back, but a lot of cars will go off. It's so easy to lose traction there.
Well, you survived it. You get 35 points and close in the championship a little bit. So does Jean-Michel Noyon. So from here on out, the rest of the championship gets a little bit more interesting. We'll wish you the best of luck with that, Bill, and we'll see you again from RaceSpot, hopefully at the final round.
Thanks very much, David. Thanks for all you guys do.
Well, there we go, Paul, our race winner in race 2 here at Sebring. And I think maybe you should have a word with the second place man.
Yeah, absolutely. So standing by Stefan Rostgen, and Stefan, race number 1 didn't exactly go to plan, shall we say, blowing the engine, but second race you seemed to be able to get back up to the front of the field and fight for the win here.
Yes, I'm pretty happy how the second went. One mistake that down some places, but at the end I was second and quite happy with that.
Now, one thing I do want to mention is as well that qualifying for yourself, you didn't seem to maybe get the lap times in that you would have perhaps liked, but we saw in the race that you were then able to just use that race pace that you had to move forward.
Yeah, I did not practice this very much, so I did not have the pace, and after getting used to it, after some laps, I get into a flow, and then it's getting better, but I haven't practiced enough.
Well, I mean, I think the rest of the championship would like you not to practice at all. But but talking about that battle at the end there, we saw Bill just get up on the curb before the long right-hander at Big Bend. You saw your opportunity at the hairpin. Did you think that you had the chance of the win, or was it maybe just trying and not quite getting there?
Oh, if I had pushed a little bit more and went go a little bit more on the right side, perhaps it would have succeeded. But I didn't want to play it that way.
Yeah, absolutely, and fair driving is basically what this championship is built on. The respect between drivers is commendable in this series. But before we head off, is there anybody you just want to quickly thank whilst you're here?
Yes, I want to thank you, RaceSpot, for your fantastic performance and great shows, and then of course to all the admin.
Well, Stefan, well done, and all the best for the rest of the season, and hopefully we'll see you in the final round on RaceSpotTV.
Hope so. See you.
So there we go, David. Stefan Rosgen showing that he doesn't need much practice to be up there at the front.
Yep, certainly lots of experience for him in this championship already, lots of time behind the wheel of this car, and well, we'll see what he can do for the remainder of the races. We wish him well, of course. We also hope that the championship is still within everyone's grasp when we come to that final race. I think it was Montreal, where we are going to be joining this championship once again to bring RaceSpot coverage and crown another champion of 60 plus racing adventures. Thank you so much for tuning in here. I've been David Haynes, Paul Smith on production, working the cameras, maybe harder than he'd normally like to as well, and we've been delighted to have your company. We hope we see you again soon. From 60 plus racing adventures and RaceSpot TV, good night.